What is the definition of a lead and what is a lead magnet? We also talk about speaking directly to the problem when it comes to marketing. I think this is really some gold. It's towards the end of the episode, but speaking to the problem when it comes to marketing, it just made it so simple for me to understand it. But we're back with Chris here on Rethink Real Estate. Welcome to Rethink Real Estate. My name is Ben Brady, and this is a real estate podcast aimed to deliver sales strategies, marketing tips, and business insights from industry experts and myself to build a listing-focused business for the future. Let's get into it. Chris, what do you classify as a lead? Because I think that it's a pretty loaded term.
Yeah.
The real estate, like there's a Zillow lead. There's like you know how like an agent gets recruited and it's like, oh, we give you leads. Like, yeah, but hang on a second. Are they just shit you buy off the internet for people that clicked on a button that said, what's my home worth? Or like, there's such a different classification of a lead in so many different stages. What do you think a lead is? If I said lead to you, what do you think?
When I initially hear the word lead, I think back to anybody who has shown anybody who has opted into receiving contact from you, like people who know you at some point. That's where I say lead.
So hang on. So this is where opted in.
Yes.
That right there changes the game. That literally gets rid of 99% of fucking lead sources.
Yes, because like if you're buying leads and you're buying them from an external source, they have not opted into receiving information from you, but maybe from another party or something like that, which is called third-party leads at that point. Like anytime you have to start having the qualification of leads, and leads have a billion different stages inside of a life cycle. So when you're talking about a lead, you're talking about everything from a warm lead to now you have cold leads. Now you have you have third party leads, you have buyer leads, you have seller leads. Like there's in real estate, there's so many different ways to categorize a lead and mark them accordingly. But when we're talking about just the core value of lead, it's someone who has opted in to communication from you in any sort of way. That's how I view lead as a marketer. And then we get into, there's a marketing qualified lead, there's a sales qualified lead, there's an opportunity, and then we start diving in a little bit deeper onto the actual definitions.
Well, let's talk about what are the lead magnets. I think is something that you've said before. Is that what are so okay? If somebody opts in, what are the ultimate lead magnets that somebody could have, like to get somebody to opt in?
Yeah, so a lead magnet is where you can grab leads. Like think of this as like, a website that is capturing leads for you, whether it's based on, a home's price, find out your home worth, or it's based on
could it be like a QR code that's on your signboard that then they click in order to get information about a property. So they're opting in to get that information.
They're opting in to get information. And so, it could be a signboard thing. It could be, download my, top 20 tips for first-time home buyers. Like it could be guides like that. It could be a lot of these things that basically give you permission to send them something. And that's the core value of what a lead magnet is.
What do you think about the information capture gateways of a website? I don't know what the right terminology is. You know how like you go on a website and then for you're allowed to browse around for 30 seconds, then it pops up with I don't know what they're called, but I don't like those.
No, and the reason why, so that actually, as funny as it is, that was our number one way of getting buyer leads back in the day. So that was like the number one thing. We would let them view 5 photos on a property, and then capture form would come up, and it would lock the entire page, and they wouldn't be able to view any more photos of that property. So they would get basically the 3 exterior photos, and they get like 1 kitchen photo in a living room, and then it would lock the website and say, hey, fill out your first name, your last name, your email address to unlock the rest of this photos. And then so that was our number one way for the previous company I worked for of actually getting buyer leads, and then we would then transfer those buyer leads over to agents to then work. And that was our number one way. That way was a little bit different then because the Zillows of the world and all those other things, the Realtor.coms, like they didn't have the market share or attention share when it comes to buyers in the market yet. And so we're talking about, 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, whatever it was. And so they were going to our website and we got them to our website and they're searching for properties on our website. Now, a lot of people don't go to any realtor page enough to then qualify the fact that you're going to gate. It's called gating. information. So
Yeah.
gated information, in my opinion, is only good when the information is actually very valuable to the person who's going to put their information in.
Right.
So if you're going to gate something, it has to be of such value that they are willing to give up something of their value, which is their contact information, in order to then receive that piece of information, which could be, top 20 buyer tips for or top 20 tips for first time home buyers. It could be, the properties that have sold in the neighborhood in this farm in the last 12 months. It could be
Yeah.
little things
Like
like
some
that.
type of marketing report or something like that.
Something that you've
value.
actually put together that actually has some value and weight. And then in turn, those then would then build trust with that client and that buyer, or that seller. It would then build trust with them so that when they go to use a real estate agent, they actually just choose you without actually interviewing anybody. So providing some value in your gated content then has a return in that way, because a lot more people, when they find value in gated content, they actually, and you build trust with them, it's like turns into a sale more times than not. And so
Right.
that's one of the big things when it comes to value content. A lot of people just put out the crappiest content that's out there, and it's just generic. It's stuff that's like, they can get off like some company that's like selling something, it's a market report or something like that. They like put together CMAs for you and then you gate it and all that stuff. When they're actually, you put the time into some of your free giveaways that are gated content for your lead magnets, those actually can turn around and just double your business, triple your business, all like immediately, which is great.
From a volume perspective anyway, of having the data in order to source.
The data so that you can follow up with them, but also just building the trust because you put some time and effort into something they would actually consume and engage with. And then it would build some trust and value and, confidence that what you're talking about in their local marketplace.
It's got me thinking about our Harkless Auctions website. So, and this is probably a little bit too internal for podcasts, but whatever. But imagine if we had all the entirety of the website open, but then in the property pages, they had to provide information regardless of whether they wanted to download the reports or not.
Yeah, like the buyer and
property
seller
section.
reports. Yeah.
Well, no. The property section, like the on the market page.
Oh, gotcha.
What I mean? So, like for any of the properties, they'd have to do that. Like, because at the end of the day, in order to
our
access
inspection
that
reports and stuff.
Yeah. They already have to give their information over if they want to look at that stuff. But I just mean the page in general as well.
Yeah.
Or do you think that's too much?
I think that's where you're getting back into the old school days of gating a lot of the property information. Right. Like if they're there already, we should be giving them, because it's tough, right? Like there could be people there just window shopping, and then there could be people who are super, super interested in that property. And so we'd then be contacting leads that are kind of all over the place in various different stages. While they all might inherently be buyers, a lot of them could be agents, just window shopping or trying to find out about our process. And then the other ones could be other sellers. Like, I think that's just where you get a little bit harder. Now, I do like the fact that we gate all the inspection reports and everything like that so that we can follow up at that point, because I think that does show us a little bit more down the lead funnel of people who are a little bit more interested and more qualified.
Yeah, and it's also a little bit more sensitive information about the property that ultimately they need to give up something in order to get it.
Exactly. Yeah, I think there's more value in those ones. And it just shows us people who are serious, like at that point. So we're not just grabbing every window shopper who comes in the website at that point.
Do you agree with that a lead is something from a social media perspective to say something like, hey, what's this home worth, or what's your home worth, or provide your information in order to find out a report about what your property's worth in today's market? Is that capture, or is that
that's a lead
is
magnet.
That a lead?
Yeah, that's a lead magnet. That you're talking about, like a way of grabbing leads at that point. And so those still work and those still have value. A lot of the ones that I'm seeing that are having value right now is like use our AI generated, home pricing tool. Like, and so they just kind of like throw a couple labels on there, and those are sadly still not accurate. Like they're nowhere near accurate. And so I still don't think people are getting the ultimate value of knowing exactly what their home's worth, and so you're not building any confidence with them. I would almost try to go the other route and stop doing the home, like what's your home worth, and start trying to do talking about their exact persona and marketing to them about their persona, whether that's here's top 10 tips, or here's my top 10 guide for downsizing in your 50s once your kids have moved out.
Got it. So,
you know what I mean?
So go after the demographic versus the actual, So
exactly. We're talking about their problems at that point, and then at that point, they're getting something of like, here's and this is, you could run an ad on this. You could be like, here's how we helped this couple in their 50s downsize after their kids moved out, and it's just a complete breakdown of like a case study. But it's, walking through Jen and Mark.
Case study's nice. Yeah.
Jen and Mark had 2 kids. They both went off to college. They both got jobs in other cities. They didn't need this 5-bedroom house in Gig Harbor anymore. This is where they wanted to live, XYZ. Walk through that. And then here's the guides of selling their home from start to finish. What it looked like, what the time frame looked like. Give them all that information at that point. And then, you're gating that piece of content because it is walking them through step by step on how that process handled.
Yeah, because it's kind of like, here's the process of how we just sold 123 Smith Street as well. You could do that.
Exactly.
Okay, download a free guide in order to do that, or download the steps in order to do that, or put your information in for us to to take you through the process as well, because it's often capturing them within that thought. Because I'm thinking about myself is that I'm hopefully going to be doing the Santa Cruz half Ironman, and because I've been looking at all of those sites and whatever it is, I got targeted with some ads looking for a training program for a half Ironman. You're like, yes, I am. Like, I'm in.
Exactly.
Like it's like that particular moment. It's almost like YouTube and the titles of the videos.
Yeah, you're speaking to an exact problem and you're trying to target that exact demographic on whatever it looks like. So, I mean, it could be little things is like, are you worried about the interest rate changes and what that means for, your property?
Speak to the exact problem.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it might sound like you're narrowing your target in a little bit and you're still blasting it out to everybody. But even if you're narrowing your target, that doesn't matter. In my opinion, marketing in the old days got way too worried about trying to hit the masses and not hit the person.
Yeah, that's it. Well, let me give you an example of that. And this is not my wheelhouse, but I sat down for a coffee with somebody the other day they're doing something completely different to real estate, and they're really struggling at the moment from a marketing perspective. And they were just like, hey, I'm just going to verbally just diarrhea to you, and you're going to tell me what ultimately you think. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? And they're spending about $7,000 or $8,000 a month in order to pay for like advertising to get people come to their website and purchase like an online course, and then like maybe a book or things along those lines. Yeah. And I said, like when they were taking me through all of this stuff, is like, well, hang on, how does the marketing look and what is it going out to and who are you targeting? And they're like, well, we're trying to get this. I'm like, I don't think that's how I would see it. Like, it didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, why don't you come up with like the 6 biggest issues that people that you're trying to target actually have? And then you do individual pages where ultimately it's targeted toward those. Like, so for example, like the person I'm talking to is dealing with like mums that have young kids, and have no time and no time to work on their marriage and all these different things. I'm like, why don't you just do one there? Like, have no time because of the kids and your marriage is falling apart. Like, that's a headline and that's a topic. Like, that speaks to that issue. But come up with 10 of the issues that you deal with and do that individually. Like, speak to the problem.
And I think marketers in the past, they got worried about offending certain people. So like you talked about, is your marriage falling apart? Some people be like, well, I'm a busy mom, but hell no, my marriage isn't falling apart. My marriage is perfect. And so they wouldn't be your target demographic, but they still might see your ad. And that's fine. Like, they just browse past it. Maybe they leave a nasty comment whenever you delete it or you respond to it and say, hey, we didn't mean any offense or blah, blah, blah. So that's fine. But the people who it does resonate with, that's going to be infinitely more valuable to you than the people who get negative about it. And so I think that's where, as marketers, we need to start focusing. Is we got to start focusing on the niche, because it does resonate so much more. It's almost like you have an opinion for something or you stand for nothing. Like, and so it's one of those big things. Good. Yeah. And so you, as a marketer, you almost, and a business, you have to kind of stake your claim on certain areas. Yeah, and sometimes that comes into speaking exactly about a problem.
Exactly right. Well, I like that. Speak to the problem. That's the takeaway from here. Christopher, thank you as always.
Yeah, of course. No problem.
So about 75% of our audience hasn't liked, followed, or subscribed to our podcast. It would mean the world to us, and it would help this podcast more than you know to expand our reach if you were to like, follow, or subscribe on any of the platforms that you're watching or listening on. Thanks again.